Welcome to the Dutch Network of Women Professors Spring Symposium. Thank you so much for joining us, both here in Utrecht as well as online via the live stream, to dive into the changing world of recognition and rewards and what this means for gender equality. We are working towards the next level, but how do we make sure that an inclusive, safe, equal and equal paying academic world is the result? My name is Marieke IJskoten. I'm a sustainable lifestyle and equal rights expert, and the issue of women's rights and equality is very, very dear to my heart. I'm also a speaker and presenter, and for me it's always important to only work in the environments where that is ensured. So for me, sustainable lifestyle and conscious living revolves around freedom, about fair treatment for everyone, irrespective of gender, identity, where you come from and what you do. I'm an ambassador for the campaign Omdat ik het verdien, to abolish the gender pay gap, and also part of the ongoing court case against the Dutch government to make birth control measures, I was going to say abortus, but that is something completely different, to make birth control measures freely available for everyone, to really also make sure that everyone has access to emancipation, but also education. So, like last year, I'm really, really happy to be part of this event. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be your host. So today we are looking at the next level. Oh, that's me. I thought it said the next level still, but now it says my name. So we're looking at me and the next level in R&R from different perspectives. First, you'll hear a short keynote from expert Kim Huipen, after which we'll discuss key topics in a panel with 4 esteemed guests and yourself, of course. After lunch, we celebrate the new Distinguished Women Scientists Fund laureates, after which 2 rounds of in-depth workshops will provide you with the tools to navigate your development and your career in this ever-changing landscape. To top this all off, fab Dutch comedian and singer-songwriter Kiki Schippers, and that has a really nice sort of attention to it, will provide us with a song that is tailor-made and also performed for us, especially for us, about these very issues. And I've had the pleasure to work with her before, and really you do not want to miss this. It's quite special. Something to look forward to. But let's get this show on the road, shall we? Everyone ready? Good stuff. Now, what are we going to be talking about today, and why do these topics matter so much? Who better to introduce them to us than Professor of Clinical Decision Making in Cardiothoracic Interventions at Erasmus MC, and of course Chair of the network, Hanneke Takkenberg. Yes, a round of applause. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of the board of the network, a warm welcome. And it's in 3D. It's been 3 years since we had a live Spring Symposium, and it's been 3 long years as far as I'm concerned. So I'm so happy to see you all back here in person, although some of us still had the need to join online, and they of course are welcome as well, as COVID has not left us entirely. So 2019 Spring Symposium, we talked about the future of science and the future scientists. And the recognition and rewards movement had just started. And then of course COVID hit. Luckily, we did not sit still, no, we moved forward. And I'm very happy that today we are back in person discussing the next level. The next level, I think, reflects, on the one hand, all the movements that continued during COVID, but also reflects the movement within the Dutch network of women professors. We haven't been quiet either. We have a new mission statement, a new strategy, and you can actually read it here behind me, and I'll try to read it with you. We aim to promote and sustain equal representation of women in academia. We aim to work towards the betterment of the position of women of all backgrounds. And finally, and this is also added on everything that we're already doing, we are here to push for an inclusive and safe academic community. And we've shown that in the past years through our reports, through the discussions we had with the different parties in our field, the colleges van bestuur, but also the minister. Also talk about all the organizations in the scientific arena in the Netherlands. And we are proud of that. But we are ready for the next level. We also think that we are at a point of no return. What we see right now, and we're really proud of that, is that we see slowly increasing gender equality in our organizations. And as you've seen in our last monitor, on average, more than 25% of professors is female. And I think that's also thanks to our efforts. Also what we see is that social safety is on the agenda. And we helped to push for that in our 2018 report on social safety. It's actually about harassment in academia, in Dutch academia. Finally, we see, going to the next level, that the diversification of the criteria for valuing scientific achievements is on its way to implementation, also with our help and with our push. So today we will mainly focus in our discussion on recognition and rewards. It is so important to have this diversification of ways of rating research and researchers, not only focus on science, on research anymore, but also on education, on leadership, and on societal impact. And this is, of course, great, having a diversification of these criteria, but does this diversification of criteria automatically mean that it will create gender equal opportunities? We would like to debate this today. In addition to recognition and rewards, we would have loved to also address the cultural change that is needed to ensure social safety in academia. Unfortunately, the Royal Academy of Sciences advisory report for the Ministry of Education is still underway and will only become public on July 14. So we will have to postpone our discussions to a little bit later in this year. Additionally, we're very proud today to also present 6 laureates of the Distinguished Women Scientist Fund. And we hope you will enjoy the afternoon workshops that will further build upon the morning program. And of course, the most fun part of today is actually seeing each other again, meeting up and networking. So I hope by the end of this day, I wish you all that you feel inspired by the speakers and discussions. I hope you feel energized by the workshops and personal interactions. And finally, I also hope you feel personally activated to contribute to further positive change towards gender equality in Dutch academia. Wishing you a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Hanneke Takkenberg, thank you so much. Recognition and rewards, what's in it for gender equality? Indeed, that's what we'll be discussing today. Kim Huipen is Program Manager for the Dutch National Programme for Recognition and Rewards in Academic, and in this role responsible for nationwide coordination of all parties involved. She will shine her light on the developments so far, the willingness and also concern she encounters, and her vision on whether recognition and rewards will indeed contribute to the advancement of women in academia. Please, your attention for our keynote speaker, Kim Huipen.
Thank you so much. And I think it's the first time I will speak with such a microphone. And I think it works. I will share a small secret. Yes, we started with our program on recognition and rewards just before COVID hit us. in the beginning of 2020. So I'm the National Program Manager on Recognition and Rewards now for more than 2 years. And I was invited at quite some events, but all online events. I spoke in my bedroom, and I had quite some speaking notes in front of me. So I'm a little bit used to speaking well prepared with all these notes, but this is much more fun. So I hope, we will have a nice hour or so with each other, speaking about recognition and awards, sharing dilemmas on equality, diversity, gender, and very looking forward, most of all, to the debate or the dialogue we're going to have in a few more minutes. But I was invited to share also a little bit, and first slide, please. So this is also a little bit new, to ask for the slides, to share a little bit about our national program on recognition and rewards. And first, I think most important is our ambition for academia. And what we aim for is a healthy and inspiring environment for all our academic staff, where all talents are valued. Teaching, research, impact, patient care, leadership in academia. And we don't have only this ambition for the Netherlands, but all over the world. And I think it's it's a huge ambition, actually. But we need to work together internationally to really change something in the way we recognize and reward academics. So next slide, please. What we'd like to share with you today is why we think we need a change in the way we recognize and reward academics, what we want to change, how we think we will be able to achieve this change, and how you might be able to contribute. So next slide, please. Why we think we need this change. And then the next again. What we see in academia is that there is a mismatch between what we deem important in academic work and what we reward our academic staff for. So careers are heavily, in academic careers, it's really, really important these days to publish in certain journals. And we think that there's too much emphasis on these publications. So could you go to the next slide, please? What you see here is a caliper, and this visualization is developed by Utrecht University. And what you see on the left-hand side is a small caliper looking at only part of the output of a scientist, an academic, a scholar, mainly publications, or mainly research output, and then within this measuring output in research, it's only measuring publications or the H-index or the journal impact factor or the funding. And what we think with a lot of people now in the Netherlands is that we should have a much more advanced measuring instrument to be able to really see the quality of the work of our academics and to be able to also see the quality of the work in teaching, the quality of the work in outreach, the quality in leadership roles, and professional performance is what Utrecht University calls it. And one of the examples of professional performance is patient care. And I think I didn't mention impact yet, but of course what we do in science is we really want to build a bridge to society because the benefits of science for society are, of course, very, very important, and that's why we do all this work. So what we want to change, the next please, and then very quickly to the next one, is we like to diversify and vitalize career paths. We want to achieve a balance between individuals and the collective and the team in working together. We want to focus more on quality instead of quantity and certain indicators. we, with our program, want to stimulate open science to give also more room for example, sharing data sets or involving the public in your work. And we want to stimulate leadership in academia. Next slide, please. So I think one of the crucial elements in our program, in our approach, is that we think there should be more diversification in career paths. That's people, that academics who really have a talent for teaching, for example, have the opportunity to choose for a career with a bigger focus on teaching, but all together in a team. So what we see is teams with people with different profiles working together on all the ambitions universities, university medical centers, research institutes, the ambitions they have. And of course we are institutions who aim for education, for teaching, for research, for impact patient care. And in the team, all these different elements of our work should have a place, but we think that not everyone should be good at everything. And I think this will come back again at a panel discussion, but I think that's really crucial to mention. Next slide, please. So what we strive for, the second thing we strive for is a better balance between the team and the individual. So we strive for more team performances and looking more at team spirit and teamwork in academia. The third aim of our progress is a bigger focus on the quality of work, to try to really look at some types of outputs, the publication or a data set, or an exhibition or a patent, or, well, outputs can be very, very wide, but we think that we should have a better look at really the quality of the work, and not only at a quantity or some indicators as a proxy for that quality. And the fourth element of our program is stimulating open science. And I think that open science and this Recognition Area Awards perspective are strongly intertwined. So some see that Recognition Area Awards is part of this open science movement, and others see open science more as one of the elements in our Recognition Area Awards approach. But we all know that if we want to stimulate open science activities, that we really should reward the people who share their data in a fair way, in a responsible way. We should reward the people who involve the public in their work. So it's really one of the main elements of Recognition Area Awards. And the fifth one is stimulating leadership in academia. And well, we think that there should be more and more emphasis on high quality leadership in academia, that people who really are good and talented in leadership roles, in leading a group, that they should get the opportunity to step in leadership roles. And we also need this leadership to make this change. And I think not only this change in diversifying career paths, but also in the changes you all strive for. So that's really, really important to stimulate that leadership. Next slide, please, and then quickly to the next one. So how do we work? Well, we set up a program, and the basic elements of this program is that we really believe in sharing good practices. So also my role as the program manager is to try to bring together all the people working on these Recognition Area Awards initiatives. We've just set up an online community to be able to share our practices online with each other, but we also share them at occasions like this. And in the last couple of years, of course, online, but we made a lot of opportunities, we created a lot of opportunities to share this with each other and create a network like you have as well. So next slide, please. So every university and every research institute has set up a Recognition Area Awards committee. They did so in 2020. most of them presented their own vision or manifesto or approach to recognition awards. So they translated the Room for Everyone's Talent position paper that we published in 2019. They translated this to their own contexts, and they started experiments. And they had a lot of dialogues and having this dialogue, creating this dialogue, and also listening to concerns and dilemmas. That's also key to our approach. Next slide, please. So these recognition area awards committee, they translated the 2019 position paper to their own contexts, and they're now re-implementing these visions. And the next slide, please. And that's the dialogue is going on. So most of these committees had a lot of dialogue sessions, most online. Some used specific tools to have this dialogue on recognition area awards. And this is really needed to discuss with our peers, with everything in our reach, how we look at academic careers, how we evaluate quality. But what we also have, and that is what you see on the left, is that we have the board members on board of the Dutch universities, of the university medical centers, of the Royal Academy, and they together, and the funders of course, NWO and ZonMW, and they together form a national steering group. Yeah, we have this movement of also young academics, of open science communities, at a lot of places there are a lot of things going on, but we try to bring it together a little bit as well on a national level with our program team and with our steering committee. Next slide, please. So I think I mentioned quite some of these elements. I hope you will be able to read it. But I think I mentioned quite some of these elements of the guiding principles of the approach already. So we think that culture change is a fundamental change of beliefs, not just a change in the rules of the game. And that's, you might think, or you might, well, we presented this position paper in 2019. What did already happen? Can I already feel it? Can I already touch it? We think we should not make steps too quickly because we do not want to change one list of indicators too quickly to change it with another list of indicators. We really think the change should be fundamental, and that's difficult and takes a long time. But I think, and I hope that you've heard from recognition awards before, that you might have been to a dialogue or might have read something, and this broad dialogue is really, really essential to make these steps, as are sharing good practices, giving room for ideas and then bringing them back together, and the importance of good quality leadership I also discussed already. And then I hope we will have an orange slide, but I will go on. And on this orange slide, it should say, how can I contribute? How can you contribute? I think everyone can. You can start small. We're just starting a small dialogue with your peers, with your group, with the people you work with from other universities, and hopefully also universities abroad. And share your ideas, but also your concerns and dilemmas. And I think we will discuss them in a few minutes, and I'm really looking forward to that dialogue. And I think a lot of people are in a position to start a small experiment themselves. So we're a few PhD students from Utrecht University Medical Center. They come together in Science in Transition, Young Science in Transition, and they actually changed a form they didn't like. So on a small scale, you can really do something yourself. And please share that with your own recognition awards committee, with us on a national level, and together we can take steps. So I prepared a dilemma. I think we will discuss that later on. And then I will go to the conclusion. That's a few slides further. 24 on my screen. I think we need a better balance in how we recognize and reward academics to help us achieve excellent education, research, impact and leadership, as well as the highest level of patient care in the university hospitals. And we cannot change academic career assessment on our own. We need to work together within the Netherlands, but also on a global level. And there are very interesting developments going on the European level already. So I hope we will move together, and I'm very much looking forward to the dialogue.
Kim Hoper, thank you so much. And do have a seat, because of course you are part of the next session, and that is indeed our panel discussion. So I'm going to also have a seat here, and you just grab whatever you need. Also some water maybe. Because I'd love for you to welcome our esteemed guests for the panel. Tanya Bondarouk, who's a professor of human resource management, dean of the Faculty of Behavioral Management and Social Sciences at Twente University, and board member of the network. She will join us via Zoom from Milan, I presume. There you are. Hello, Tanya. Welcome. Could you maybe say hello to us so we know that we can hear you?
Thank you very much for inviting. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us from your glamorous place in Milan. A bit jealous. We'll be with you in a second. My next guest is Sarah de Rijke, Professor in Science, Technology and Innovation Studies and Scientific Director at the Center for Science and Technology Studies at Leiden University. Welcome. Can we have some applause for these guests? Thank you. Hello, Sarah. Lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us. And my fourth is Malika Ouasha, board member of the PhD Network, the Netherlands. Thank you so much for joining us. So for about 40 minutes, we'll be discussing key issues in R&R, and afterwards there'll be about 10 minutes for you to also ask questions or voice your remarks. Now, if you don't feel comfortable to publicly maybe voice your input, or if you're watching online, you can send your input to us via these instructions, then anonymously a member of the network will ask your questions for you. Okay. Nice, some water, yeah, I'd love some as well. And then we're going to dive right in. I think this is probably your microphone. Can you all grab one? That will be really good. Just, can you say something again?
Yes.
I'm not sure if we hear Kim now. Can you turn it up? Yes, can you try it again? Kim, can you say something?
Yes. No.
How about you, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello? Does it work? Yep, it's working.
It is. Can you hear her well? Yes, good stuff. Okay, here we go. Look, Kim, thank you very much. You just gave an overview of the developments in recognition and rewards. And many people say that we really need a cultural change, right, in Dutch academia when it comes to R&R. Can you maybe all tell us why you think this is really needed, and also personally why this is important to you? That would be very interesting to know. Monica, can I start with you?
I think the reason is very simple. You need a cultural change because the world is changing. So you can't move towards the new time with old systems.
Yeah.
And from a personal change, I think it's also because, like, as part of the new generation, you also see things differently.
Yeah.
Not better or worse, but just different. And in order for that difference to be honored, I do believe that you need space for your idea to be rooted and bloom. And it's not helping if someone from the old system says, wait, I feel like if your idea is blooming, my ideas won't work anymore.
Yeah, there's
I think that's
no space enough for...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is a fear that comes from not knowing enough of who we are, because we want to work with you and not against you.
Yeah.
And it's really about honoring that fear and acknowledging it, and then saying, okay, but hey, you know, I'm not going to do to you what has been done to me. So just sit with me and I'll give you a hug in the meantime, but we're really going towards that new time. So.
Yeah, it is happening. I mean,
Exactly.
it is happening.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And we do want to do it with you and not without
Exactly.
you. And you'd have to trust that.
Exactly.
But I think it's important indeed to sort of realise that there's quite some fear there. But that's not going to hold us or you back at all.
No, but because we need them too. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know anything without you. And we're standing here because of you. So we're also very grateful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that's missing. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I think.
I'm sure this will come up again, but thanks so much for sharing that for now. Sarah, how about yourself?
For me, I guess it's a combination of personal drive, but also an academic concern. I've been doing research on evaluation for 10 years now. So I see the effects of the way we assess in different fields. That comes from our results, that it's problematic. Mm. And one of the issues I have is that we create a very undiverse academic space in many ways, but also in terms of the questions that we can ask in the work we do, or can't ask in the work we do. And that's partly because of the indicators we use. So that's a big concern for me, this contraction of the space of problems we can address for the world of tomorrow.
Yeah, or today, maybe
or
even.
today even, yes.
Yeah.
So that's a really quick summary. Yeah. And it's personally, I think it's very important that in academia, and especially, for instance, in my own university, which is Leiden University, a very large general university, we need all fields. Yeah. And not every field is able to thrive as well as others because of the way we assess quality.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Tanya, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You are larger than life here with us.
Wow.
Could you share? No, it's very great to have you. Could you share with us what for you is so important and why this change is needed?
Yeah, thank you, Marika. Yes, for me, I have two reasons, also personal one and also professional or academic, stemming from my academic field. But let me start with a personal reason. I remember myself on the road for publications, running, fighting with editors, trying to publish as many articles per year or other publications as possible. But I must acknowledge or confess today, and I do it more often, that it didn't bring me more happiness as a researcher, and even worse, it didn't make any breakthrough outcomes. And only when I get rid of this cage, what I call necessity to publish in good journals or top journals, I started to publish what I liked. And suddenly new ideas came, and suddenly I felt I'm making an impact. So that's why I want to share this, and I want to bring it further than only using it for myself or for my own group. And the second reason is professional. My expertise is in the field of human resource management, and I would like that this movement lets every talent in academia shine. There is enough evidence from psychology, from HRM, from social sciences, humanities that supports the idea that when people use their talents, their knowledge and expertise where they're good at, they will be more engaged with their jobs, with their work. Their work will become happier. And in the end, the academic world will gain better results. And for me, it means becoming more relevant for scientific developments, but also for public debates and for practice.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting to hear you relate happiness in a way, and also researching what you like and what you want with better results. That is such an interesting and important, I think, statement to make, and that the whole I have to publish as much as possible in these different places didn't also create any breakthroughs. I thought that was also very vital. Thank you so much. We'll be back with you shortly. Kim, how about yourself?
Yeah, well, I think it relates to what Sarah just shared. I think publications are written to be read and not to be counted. So I think we do research for the benefits of science and society, and not just some bean counting efforts to grow in our careers. So that's one of my the the personal drivers. But another one is also from my days as a student. So I noticed, I think, in my first or my second year as a student psychology at University of Amsterdam, that teaching was not what was recognized as much as I thought as a student it should. And I think that our students deserve the best teachers and deserve teachers then that can really take time to prepare their classes and to prepare their work. And I think that we have a lot of people who really like to do that, who have the talent to do that, but don't get the opportunity. Or
No, because we don't value it so much,
Yeah.
which is strange in a way, indeed. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, thank you so much. There's so much in here already that I'd like to dive into straight away. So let's go into that cultural change a bit more, because that's something that we really want to achieve. What do you see if I would make you choose? I'm sorry about that. I'm making you choose something already in the second question. The most important aspect, if you like, of recognition and reward. So the one that will bring the most, let's say, actual structural change. Sarah, maybe I start with you there. Sorry.
It's okay. I think thinking through together from the top down and from the bottom up about how we operationalize quality in research, in education, and in relevance is going to be one of the biggest challenges. And if we don't do that well and carefully, this won't work.
Yeah.
But we haven't been trained to do this at all.
At all?
No. If you ask someone what is high quality research, they're going to switch to externalized
Yes.
story, number of grants, citations, blah, blah, blah. Not unimportant, but I mean what we consider to be quality in a substantive way.
Yes.
And that requires a whole different type of leadership. And
So maybe continue on that path for a little while, because it is, of course, one of the big themes of this whole movement, I'd say, quality assessment and gender equality and the impact it has on each other. How do you do it? Because that's going to be the big question, right? How do you create such, I'm going to say, drastic switch, almost, in the way that we sort of assess or determine the quality of researchers and research? How? How?
how desperately seeking for guidance. Okay, in my opinion, there's already a lot of work done. Some people don't realize that there's a whole academic field that does research on how we should do this properly and develops criteria for different fields to think about, relevance, for instance. So one way would be to dive in to what's already out there.
Okay.
And what's already available internationally. Also internationally, there are already good practices. Yes, the Netherlands is a front runner, but we're definitely not alone. So let's just see what's already out there. And a third ingredient, I think, is to take time and to do two things. This bottom-up process, so within the universities or knowledge institutions, bring people together to have this conversation about quality and make it explicit. And then link it up to what's already available. And if I may, one more element. I think because I'm also researching this, I find it very important that we also treat this academically. So bringing in what's available in terms of the knowledge, but also setting it up in a way that we can also do this well and see what works and doesn't work. So treat it almost like an experiment that we
scientific
need to,
research.
Yes, that we need to evaluate along the way. And it will take time because the current system took about 15 to 20 years to get to this stage. So yeah, be realistic about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have time though?
Well, if we don't do it now, we will have a problem. We have to take the time because, as I think you also pointed out,
I'm just sort of, I mean, I feel a sense of urgency at the same time. I feel you, I understand you need to do this properly and well, and we need to take the time to do it well, but then there's also, I think, some issues here that are really quite urgent. So
it's true, but there's an orientation towards tools and doing things like turning a couple of little cogwheels, doing a different form, doing different fixes.
Yeah.
I really strongly
advice against this,
yeah.
Clearly. Okay, good. We were talking about the most important aspect of recognition and rewards and what will bring the real change. So one of them will be the quality assessment. Any other issue? You're being very rhythmical. Are there any other issues that you'd like to maybe make you or Kim or also Tanya, I'll be right back with you as well, that we really should look into?
If I would continue on what you said, to have to make one choice, I would, and maybe this is radical, but if I would really have to make a choice, I would like to invest in family history and personal histories that we bring into the work floor energetically and that have influence on us as people and the way we see things.
Yeah.
I think if we invest in understanding that from a very, very intimate, deep level, and therefore also understand why you think A is quality and why I think F is quality.
Yeah.
If we really understand and respect, like deeply respect what is behind that, and therefore see you as a person and like the whole generation of women and men that are standing behind you, I think the Netherlands can be one of the leading countries in every field, not just academia. And because what I see in my research as a PhD, and it's kind of at the surface right now that I just can't look away from it because it's painful also. It's trauma, it's family trauma,
yeah.
And how much my participants and people that are in my research are driven by trauma, and they call it motive. And I say, no, it's trauma. So I think that's, like I said, it's radical, and it's sometimes maybe even rebellious, because you kind of like, you take this table and you throw it away.
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah, it's crazy maybe, but I think we need it.
And very different, of course, from how
Exactly.
we're looking at quality
And,
right now. Would you want to work towards a common ground here?
There's no common ground.
That's what I was thinking.
That's the thing.
No, but that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
So that's going to be also a very different outcome, almost.
Because indeed, but that's okay. Like we should see that as a common ground.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have fast land. Maybe we're working on island. So let me teach you how to swim.
Yeah.
You know, so you can reach my island and I know how to reach yours. And maybe we even come along and be like, oh wait, I know that flower. That's in me too.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's. But again, it can be radical, and sometimes people like, Malika, where are you? And I'm like, wait.
But is this happening somewhere, someplace already?
Well, I do it in my research.
You do it, yeah.
But it requires a lot of soft supervision.
Yeah.
So I'm really blessed with my supervisor because he knows, like, okay, so everything you're writing is in you. And I was like, yeah, but that's why it's so hard to write about it. So I really had these weekly meetings in his office, and I even had to buy him a tissue box because he didn't have tissue boxes. And I'm like, we need tissue box here. So it's really about crying and healing that part of yourself. Yeah. And this is what I mean. If we talk about healing, and especially as women, we're like, you're that spiritual millennial person. Yeah. And I'm like, no. I'm pointing to that pain that you're running away from.
Yeah, and that's also maybe installed in centuries of women and
it's
people
in the system.
Behind us. Yeah,
I mean, we have the toeslagaffaire.
Yeah.
If we have people in Den Haag who know what it is to come from that social class, we would never have this affair.
No. Yeah, so we need to really learn and open up and make this also part of ourselves. Thank you so much. I wish we could talk about this for a long time, but maybe at some point. Tanya, What do you feel is one of the most, or let's say for you, the most important aspect in recognition and rewards that really will bring about that structural change?
Well, I would answer this in this way. Maybe we should not go to another extreme and isolate the quality assessment as something isolated and unique practice. For me, it would be great if we managed to integrate it, to align it with other practices and understanding and views on work management in academia in general. It's a people management matter, how we select employees. You feel I speak from my term background, of course, how we select new employees, new colleagues, how we onboard them, how we offer them training, career possibilities. So not only quality assessment, but everything what is related to our life in academia. And that would be for me a very important matter to achieve this cultural change.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. This makes me think of a conversation I had with one of my best friends. She is an assistant professor of mathematics and statistics, and I was talking to her about that I was going to do this, and that these are the topics we're talking about, recognition and rewards. And I said to her, because this, of course, since 2019, the paper has been out and people have been talking about it. And I said, have you noticed anything? Can you see that there's a difference? And she explained to me she felt that from that moment, she felt that there was actually more that she needed to comply with, that it maybe became harder. I see some nodding in the audience, this is interesting. And that it's not for her necessarily more clear cut, but she feels there's just more things now that she needs to comply with and do. And that made me think of some risks, maybe, that we also need to really address in this audience here. Will it not become harder for women in academia to advance and to maybe be promoted instead of it becoming clearer and easier in a way? There's some you don't feel this so much. I can understand that this is maybe harder for you. So why don't you tell me what you think?
I think that we cannot give the answer yet. Yeah. If it will be harder or easier for women to find a career in science. But what we aim for, and I hope we will all like that, to create an inspiring environment where all talents are valued. And I hope that we really will go for that. But that is it's difficult because there's also a status thing, for example, between research and teaching, that research tends to get a little bit more status than teaching. And that was also the slide I've just shown for 1 second, is suppose that that there are more women who like to have a career with a little bit more focus on teaching. And suppose we will be able to create this option to create more diversity in career paths. But that then at some point there is no change. And the people around these women don't give this, don't have in their minds this same level of status between research and teaching. And then the women might be worse off than at the starting point. But if this worry or this concern, and it's similar as this concern about, we say in the Netherlands, a schaap met 5 poten.
Yeah.
So that you should...
So you're asking people to do all and be all at the same time, yeah.
So I understand these concerns are sincere, and people experience these concerns, but if no one takes the step, we're not going to change.
No, sure, but I think it's quite important to realise that this might be the result, and how can you then sort of take that with you and incorporate it in
and it's important for the board members involved, and I think they do, that these people realize that people trust them, that there is going to be a change, and they take steps and take decisions based, and especially the younger generation. So do we have time is a very relevant question, of course, for the younger generations, because if we dialogue and start and think for 10 years, then it's a lot of time for early career scientists. So it's difficult. I think it takes courage for both scientists and people in leadership roles, but also trust that we will be making these steps.
Yes, but we need to address these risks, I think, right? These are, things that people actually experience at the moment. We saw some nodding in the audience as well. I saw some nodding here in the panel. So these are risks that we need to address.
Tanya has a question, but I was also wondering something. So maybe you should go first, Tanya, and then...
I will, and then come back to you. Tanya, tell me.
Yeah, it is not a question.
Thanks.
I would switch and not use the word risk, but use the word an opportunity. And let's say, I fully agree that we should address early career researchers because they are quite uncertain about these changes, but it has been always the case with any change management and new changes in any organization. But regarding more risks for female or male scientists, just use our strong points. From the research, we know that women, for example, are much better off in establishing academic relationships cross boundaries, while male researchers are better off in establishing relationships with industry.
Tanya, can you hold on with your thought just 1 second, because there's some sort of weird noise here. I'll be back with you just now. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, no, it's all fine. I'm so into this that I didn't even realize. Okay, so we need to, Tanya, I'm back with you. We need to make sure that we use our strong points, which we were discussing as, for instance, networking, I think was the last issue that you were raising.
Exactly. If male scientists are better there is evidence for this, to build relationships with industries in their research projects. Women are better off in building relationships in cross-boundary disciplines. Okay. So let's go for it where you are good at. That's how I started. Let's build on our talents. Yes. And then there are no risks.
Start from your strengths and not look at the risk, but much more at the opportunities. So are we not in danger then of looking at this from a bit of a stereotypical perspective? Because that, I think, is also quite important, that, when we, for instance, are going to be equating research and education, which I think is quite important in this whole assessment of quality, that it's not just research, but also education. So supposedly women are very good at education, and you don't really want to, of course, reinforce these kinds of stereotypical biases, almost, because something that women supposedly excel in, right? So you need to really look at this development then and guide it in a good way. Otherwise, these biases just stay. Or am I wrong? I'd love to be. Yeah.
I think bias, it comes from somewhere. So we should focus on where does this bias come from if we are aware of it. And I think it's also about, so if you, as a woman, excel in teaching, you really need to have a manager or a coordinator or whatever, someone who's leading you, to also ask you the question, where does your desire lay in becoming better? Because you know yourself better than I do. So I think it's also about daring to be vulnerable. And maybe I'm quoting Brené Brown here, but she's really breaking ceilings here, and also daring to ask those questions to yourself and also to your manager. But again, you really need people in the field who are okay with that. And if the department you're at or your supervisor, or as a PhD you're in a vulnerable position because this is basically also your job. So if you get fired from this place, you have no place to live and nothing to eat. If those are your risks basically, then there's another reality. But the question you asked your friend is also very interesting, and the answer she gave you made me also question: is society telling you that those are your risks, or are you so much conditioned that you're telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Because we as women, because we're women, we have more to lose in a way. And I do think that maybe it's weird to say it because we're in 2022, but because we have to say it and we're in 2022, also means that we don't have to ask the question, do we have time? But more, how can I make time? What is not important at what we're doing now?
Yeah.
And how do we need, maybe we should hire people to do it for us if we don't have the time. Okay, it's very bad. I mean, it's very hard to find good people nowadays, but you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Be creative.
Yeah. And open it up.
And open it up and
Yeah.
then see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, the risks for you, how do you feel?
Well, I think we should indeed address those, make them explicit. One of the things we did in our own steering group in Leiden is list in our recommendation list the risks that we could come up with tied to our own advice. And for some reason that gave it also more solid ground and credibility, because you take it in from the start.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. I'm thinking about what the nodding. I think one of the. I hope at some point we can get to a situation in which we don't perceive it as and, but that we have a situation in which we are good at making a strategy for instance, well, in my case, an institute, and think about that in its totality, and then think about the people in the institute as not doing everything on top of each other, but thinking about their creative strengths and their capabilities. But that is a very complex situation because you have those institutional demands or opportunities, and you have the individual that we're now mainly talking about. So I just wanted to bring that other level in as well. Because that is what it makes it quite hard. Yeah. And one of the things then to be explicit about is also what you can't do in an institution. And we just have to live with that as well.
Yeah. A sort of management of expectations almost.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about the chances and the opportunities of this whole movement. I think that's really quite key, because recognition and rewards is often presented almost as a bit of a silver bullet, a solution for gender equality, diversity, inclusion, relation issues, social safety. How do you see this? Will gender equality benefit from R&R, and if so, how? I'd really like to hear that. Maybe, Tanya, I'll start with you.
Yes, that gender equality will benefit definitely. It started already to benefit, in my view, by having the whole horizon of different opportunities. And when we say, let's organize a diversity of career possibilities, this is the great offer for gender equality, that this is offered to female and male scientists at any career stage. Of course, this is a dream, I know, but we should think about this dream and how to go there. When we talk about the team science, it's one of the issues what Kim also mentioned. It's also a way towards social safety, better work, and gender equality. And I would bring maybe another issue for the discussion. I don't see my colleagues panelists, but I know Sarah likes to talk about it. Like, we talk about the gender equality, but also let's not forget gender equity as the result. Everything what we do with this R&R approach, offering equal chances and fair chances, it should result in equal results. What I mean, like, what numbers of women we want to see in leadership positions, number of equal gender results. But this is still a question for us to achieve.
But you do then definitely see recognition and rewards as one of the biggest opportunities to advance gender equality and the position of women, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, she was mentioning you here, something that you really enjoy talking about. So let's
thank you very much.
yeah, let's have it then.
I struggle with this issue. Yes. So on the one hand, so devil's advocate, I have difficulty piling every expectation on recognition and reward. So in terms of the issue of gender in academia, I think we also need a lot of other things. So it's not only coming from this, definitely not. So there will be, hopefully, there will be movement, but we have to really carefully also do a whole lot of other things.
Can you give me one or two examples of the other things you're thinking about?
Well, I guess the discussion could be tied to, if we do this well, to recognition and reward. But so the way in which we define, it's actually square in the middle, so it's not a good example. What I would like for the recognition and reward movement to do is to think about benchmark masculinity in the way we organize academia, and that is literally tied to quality control, because we expect people to move, do international careers and all these things. Very hard to do at certain phases of your career. So we do need other ways to assess quality that account for those things. But I think we also need discussions about what Tanya, I think, also referred to. What is equity in academia? And what kind of leadership do we need for that? And I think that's too big of a question to address in the context of a slightly more focused position paper. And we need other inputs, and we need much more time and space to do that. But it's very important that we don't forget it. That's why I'm a bit worried that we pile everything, or that we try to squeeze everything in here, because we cannot house that all in this movement.
No, but then it's also probably sometimes difficult to, because everything's so connected.
True.
So that makes it really hard. I mean, everything can just come in and you can take this and that, because it all belongs, I think, together.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know about you, but I think for the past 2.5 years, we've seen that happen. So there was this position paper, and then people also saw other opportunities to connect it.
Sure.
And that, so the concern is really there and relevant. And then the question is, how do we then do this?
Yeah.
Because it's all important. So I'd like to keep something out in order to make it really important.
Yeah, and do it well.
Yes, do it well.
Yeah.
So I also see something similar. If you look at a more international perspective, you see developments around about 20, 25 topics. And in some countries, certain topics are in one program or in one. So we have this recognition rewards, and we have 5 ambitious. And open science is in there, research integrity, for example, not. But we have this, we were supposed to speak about social safety here as well, and I know that this KNW committee also has a link between social safety and research integrity. And in our program, teaching and giving more room for teaching careers is a very important aspect, where in developments more on a European level, teaching is not so much an aspect, and open science is more. So it's, we see that there are a lot of developments necessary to, I think, a healthy and inspiring environment in academia, and recognition and rewards cannot be the panacea for everything. But there are certain aspects which will, I think, there will be opportunities for women. For example, this accounting publications. I think in a lot of places in academia in the Netherlands, there's still a lot of counting of publications to see if you can take the next step. And if you're pregnant, or if you have roles as a caregiver, mantelzorger, it might be more difficult to publish every year a certain amount of
And
publications.
also, it's not the end all of measuring what quality is.
That's what recognition awards is about.
Yes.
But,
clearly, there's many issues that.
yeah, but it might help as well. So
Sure.
I think the intention is more on quality.
Yeah.
But it might help for women in careers because they tend to have a little bit longer times that they're out of work in their life than men have. So there is an interrelatedness, but I don't think that we can, with recognition awards, we can solve everything.
No. But a lot, I do hope, because that's what we're trying to do here. No, okay, good. Malika, how about yourself? Do you feel this is a silver bullet, and how will it really advance equality and the position of women in academia?
I do believe that what you said is true, that everything is connected and interrelated, and I don't believe in coincidence. So I feel like we're having half a conversation here. Not that what you said is not valuable, but we can't talk about recognition and reward without discussing social safety. And the fact that ik wil nu echt geen nar zijn, hè? I don't want to be like devil's advocate, but the fact that the decision has been made that it will be spoken about it, whatever they were gonna discuss here is in July, and it was quite clear that today was going to be the day that it would be a part of the program here. The fact that there is not enough time made in the past for the input to be ready for today
For now.
is the problem.
Yeah.
And
The prioritizing of the issue.
Exactly.
Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not prioritizing social safety, can we just please have a coffee and sit at, like my mother says, keukentafel?
Yeah, around a nice
Around
table
the kitchen,
and, yes.
exactly. To have the real conversation here.
Yeah.
Because what is more important than social safety, right? Because so much is embedded upon social safety. So that being said, I think it's definitely important to, reconsider and to continue reconsidering what is really about recognition and what is really about rewards. And the collective is nothing without the individual. So put the individual first, and then you see the collective grow and bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that for me also has a lot to do with leadership, in a way, and
Absolutely.
how decision making is done. So,
But also the safety for the leader himself
of course,
or herself
or themselves.
itself.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we don't tell our leaders is if I'm safe, that means that you're safe too.
Yeah.
And it's not apart from each other, And
No, and I think it's important to also realize that, of course, future leadership is also such a big part, I'd say, of the recognition and rewards. I think also quite importantly, how the change in leadership will contribute then hopefully to equality, equity, and the advancement of
and
women.
not leadership excluding it from our own personal leadership.
No.
Are you, and that's a thing also, again, to just point it out on the women as gender types, taking leadership of your own piece and of your own situation and contribution. It's so powerful. But I think it's also saying, like a good friend of mine, he strives for gay rights in immigrant populations, Muslim immigrant populations in the Netherlands. And he always says to me, we don't have gay rights here without women's rights. Because it all started as what's the biggest minority and then continue from there. And what we see now is that we're not talking about only male, female. We're talking about male, female, and everything in between. And that everything in between, it's not like an alien,
No.
These are our neighbors.
Yes.
So it's really more learning about what is the collective and what you said about the institution. I think the institution is interesting because the institutions are we.
Yeah.
And we are the institution.
Yeah.
So if we think of ourselves as the institution, it's not something outside of ourselves. It's in me and in you. And if I'm part of that, that means that I need to work just as hard as you to take care of that and to really get to that core and therefore continue towards that, promised land or
or goal, or
Yeah.
whatever that is that we're working towards.
I don't want to
Yes.
sound biblical, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So how about yourselves? How do you feel that leadership, both within ourselves as where we, of course, make decisions that affect the structures, will change our position?
I wouldn't be able to phrase it as beautifully, but I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
This is going to make a very big impact. And it's one of the things I personally also try to practice. So indeed to lead by example, by not knowing everything all the time, and also saying that when you have a job interview, despite the fact that people then scold you and think you need a strong man above you. That literally happened to me. I became a presser anyway, but that was because someone else said this is actually good leadership.
Yes.
In the committee.
And that's a very different way of thinking about it, acknowledging what you don't know and getting, the input or the information that you need from
trying to
a knowledgeable
give
person.
that space for others to do that as well. But this is I could do that because of mentorship relationships that were there, and I think we should institutionalize that.
Yes.
We are indeed all the institutions.
Yeah.
We are the reviewers. We are NWO. We are all these things, but we also need practice and rules and policies.
Both.
And
I think that's you agree with that. That is both needed, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
totally.
otherwise it won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm so happy that I can work with such inspiring people.
And learn from them, right?
On this topic.
Yeah.
So I think that because this topic is so important, a lot of people like Sarah, and also, of course, early career scientists like Malika and Tanja, and sure should mention Rianne Letchert and Jeroen Geurs, who are, I think most of you might know, these are the real ambassadors of our program. Working with these people, that's really, really inspiring, and I wouldn't have been this far with the program if not those people were involved. So that's I think that's very, very important.
Yeah,
and I also see that people involved in our program take new steps in academia.
Yeah.
So I tend to think that these people are do get credits for their work in this culture change in their own career steps, and that gives a lot of more opportunities for the future as well. Like that, I see that more and more people on these relevant positions have this warm feeling for our movement.
You see that change is happening and it's working as well. That's inspiring, of course. Tanja, tell me.
Yes?
Yes. So how do you see the future of leadership and how it will advance equality and equity?
Wow, how do I see the future of leadership to be able to lead?
Just a small question to end it all off,
Yeah.
Something light.
Yeah, something light. To recognize, for example, the value of teamwork. We didn't mention that yet. To lead yourself, to improve, to learn constantly. But leadership starts when you look in the mirror and know your qualities and know where you're good at and know what you want to improve in your behavior, in your attitudes, in your knowledge, expertise, and how you want to lead the team. And if if there is a motivation to do it, it's difficult to say if this is done. If you're motivated, at least to look in the mirror more often and apply it to your expertise and to your team.
No, you're right. This is, of course, such an important part because I'm seeing the academic world is often perceived as quite hierarchical as opposed to team-oriented. In that sense, maybe that's also a stereotype for me, but when I was studying, that was definitely something that was going on. I think in R&R we are working towards creating a more team-oriented, I'd say, academic world. How in those teams, though, can we then ensure openness, social safety, inclusivity? That then also needs to be warranted, right?
Yeah. If you ask me, I would say in R&R we are quite late. Let me be so bold to make this statement. Let's say in the preparation for this meeting, I discovered in 2007, the colleagues from Northwestern University in the US published a paper where they analyzed 20 million of academic papers just with the research question, how many of what has changed in terms of the movement from the solo single papers towards team-oriented papers. And they discovered that in social sciences and humanities, the increase of papers in collaborative effort was 50%. And in science and engineering oriented papers, this increase was almost doubled from the single papers towards collaborative effort. So teams exist, and I'm a strong believer that academic world is based on the teamwork. We only need to recognize it stronger. That's the point. It's not like we need to build the teamwork, but we need to recognize it and to assess, to move towards the team-based assessment, for example.
Yes, but then also, of course, really warrant those kinds of, very key indicators, such as social safety, such as, equality. I think that is really important. Otherwise, you don't want to incorporate. Yes, almost. Thank you for the reminder. You don't want to incorporate the structures that we have now going forward that you really want to leave behind. But I'm being reminded to go to a panel discussion. So that's what we'll do right now. Thank you so much, Tanya, of course, and also Kim, Sarah, and Malika for your amazing input up till now. A round of applause. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. Good. Now, time to hear, of course, your views on these topics. I'd love to hear your questions or remarks. Please raise your hand if you have one. If you do and it's your turn, a microphone will come your way. I will indicate when it's yours, and if you have the microphone, please then also introduce yourselves. So there's one person at the back here, and then there's one person at the front afterwards. She will hold the microphone, and that's because I told her to. Sorry, it's a time management thing.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Darinka Tsiske. I'm associate professor at the TU Delft. And, I'm also a member of the newly found Delft Young Academy. I'm a senior early career researcher in a way. And we've had very interesting discussions about the certain critical debates that have emerged recently amongst early career scholars in the Netherlands. Many of you might be aware of a letter that was circulated by people who actually see with critical eyes the emphasis of recognition and rewards in moving towards more qualitative methods of assessment of quality in academia. Amongst ourselves, we are, as I say, debating to what extent can we square the current system of grants, in the Netherlands, that really emphasize individual grants, individual merits, and they still, despite the transition towards a narrative CV, they're still rewarding very much quantitative metrics and that sort of input. How do we square that? This is my question to the panel. How do we square that with the aims of embedding a recognition and reward system which is more holistic? Because on the one hand, especially for early career academics, it is crucial to secure grants at that stage, and they need to play by those rules, which are, we might call them outdated, but that is the way to get the grants to build an academic career. So there seems to be a little bit of a schizophrenic situation for many.
A mismatch, almost.
Yeah, and this is the dilemma we're looking at. Yeah.
Do you have a specific panelist in mind, please? Because we can't ask this to all of them.
To Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much for your question. I think you underlined why it's so important that we work together on this recognition and rewards, in this recognition and rewards program, and on this topic with universities, university medical centers, research institute, but also with the research funders, NWO and ZonMW. And so we do that in our program. I think that NWO and ZonMW took some quite courageous steps already a few years ago to switch to a form of a narrative CV and to say, we don't want to see anymore these indicators. That might have been a little bit too radical to fully swing to the other side. And I think that we have seen quite some dialogue on that, mostly last summer, but I think all year long. And now NWO is moving a little bit more towards an evidence-based CV format, where researchers are still encouraged to share their own strategy and aims with their research, and to not send in complete publication list or publication number, but to send in some indicators they really think are relevant, related to their aims of their work. And I hope there will be, so it's not this switch, it takes a little bit time because these calls, they take time, so they're published, and then it takes time before, of course, people send in their CVs.
I'm going to have to wrap it up a bit because there's a bit more questions. I'm so sorry, there's so much to talk about. I know. Was that enough for you? Thank you so much. And thank you for your question. I have a question here at the front.
But I think it's easier for me to ask my question this way. I find it rather curious that I hear a lot about teaching.
Could you possibly introduce yourself,
yes,
please?
of course. Claudia Werker. I'm working for Delft University of Technology as well. I'm an associate professor there. I find it rather curious that I hear so much about teaching and how important teaching is. I also hear a lot about quality measurement. And when I see how quality of teaching in the Netherlands is measured, it's done mostly, almost exclusively, by student evaluations. And this is the instrument that is very discriminatory to start with. Mm-hmm. So my question for Sarah is there is a huge bulk of literature on that internationally. I haven't seen anything from the Netherlands substantially. And for Kim, my question is, are you aware of that? Because if we have this very discriminatory measurement tool still applied, and then focusing even more on teaching, that will not help gender equality or gender equity.
Thank you so much. Sarah.
Yes, this is a well-known issue and we need to fix it. So I'm not an expert in quality control in education. What I know from my own university is that a lot of work is being done to come up with criteria to evaluate teaching that are not based on student evaluations, and that are also taking into account how to build a career on an educational portfolio mainly, not only but mainly. So there is activity in this area, and it needs to be, I think, further developed. And then also across universities we might need to have some minimal standards and some agreement. It's early stage, but I think most people agree that this is for many reasons, including gender inequality, a very bad way of assessing education.
Yeah, I know, and yes, indeed, I know that student evaluations are not the best way to evaluate teaching. We're working together with some people from I try to be a little bit more
concise.
To the point now. Advanced Teaching Network. That's an international network. There's now a survey going on. I know that TU Delft is participating in the survey as well. We will have a meeting in Amsterdam in a few weeks to discuss this whole culture change in recognizing teaching, and also how should we then evaluate teaching. And there are a few places left, so if you're interested, please come to me and I'll make sure you get the link to
Nice.
To come to that meeting as well.
Thank you. Question here at the front.
Yeah, thank you, Hanneke Takkemer. I was up there already, so...
Some people might know you.
Yeah. Well, I want to, I think, play the devil's advocate. Our institutions are built by usually old, white, straight,
Grey.
Dutch men.
Yes.
And for the same type of people.
Same
And,
place that we're here now today, right?
Well, I
sort of
think
a play
so.
on.
And I think what we should realize, and it does not only apply to education, is that gender bias and biases in general need to be implemented in recognition and rewards, not only when it comes to education, as Claudia just said, but also when it comes to research, because we also know that there's biases there to the advantage of those men. And also when it comes to leadership in more general, we, because of gender biases in our society, and I also believe specifically in academia, I do believe that they also are more to an advantage than women and other people who are not Dutch, white, straight men. And finally, I also believe, specifically when it comes to gender, because we are the Dutch network of women professors, in general, I do believe that women are judged by what they have achieved, while men are far more often judged by their potential. So these are all issues that need to be addressed within recognition and rewards to make it fair for everybody. So,
would you like a response from any of these, or would
I
you
would
just
love a
see us
response.
nod and
Yeah,
say, yes,
yeah.
we agree with you?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you do. Do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
We
Tanya,
totally do.
Do you agree with this? Yes. Yeah, yeah. So are you offering to help with that? Yes. Good. Yeah, but it's very important, of course, to note that... Go on. Yeah, yeah.
well, I find it important that that recognition and rewards is at least gendered and takes this into account. And
Yeah.
perhaps we should turn around the terms that we are using, because we're always talking about disadvantaged groups. But I think we should take a critical look at the groups that are advantaged, actually,
Yeah.
and see how we can make it more fair from that standpoint.
Yeah, good idea.
I think it's also about spreading that, knowing that you are there, because I didn't know until I was doing a second master's when my professor said, do you know there's this network? And I was like, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really also about spreading that awareness of, hey, you're part of that counter sound. Do you know that there are people on the same counter sound working for your rights?
Yeah.
They're out there. And
Yeah.
I think that's I totally believe that that could also help spread the sound
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm going to go to an anonymous question. Don't give her the microphone, even if she's your colleague. You were not supposed to do that.
The question online is, there's a lot of pressure from the outside world in academia. How do you see the role of commercial stakeholders or partners for structural change, for example, in the case of funding?
Thank you. Was there a name attached to who they wanted to? No. Okay. Tanya, do you have a direct connection to that question?
I will try. I will try. Thank you. Oh, well, what we know that our research results and the impact that we want to make in the society, we're still in the academic world, whether this impact in teaching or impact on through research or other spheres of impact in academia. Let's say the utilization of our scientific expertise is not only contingent on the gender of the scientist, but also on the gender of the assessing groups, the groups who assessed us, and including this. If I hear well the question, like those subsidy bodies and whatever organizations and companies, etc., they also could be encouraged or even maybe enforced to have their committees that are balanced in terms of the gender representation.
Yes, enforced, I think, is a good word. Yeah, but no, indeed. So we need to also look at those structures and where those decisions are being made when it comes to funding. Yeah, for sure.
For example, NVO committees now have to have representatives of all genders, let's say, in their committees.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the committee doesn't go.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any more connection to this question also maybe from the commercial side? What was I think, a worry here? Go Go on.
The way I approach the issue of, I guess, commercialization and recognition and rewards is through the publishing industry and the links with commercial ties there that are very fundamentally shaping the way we do our work and the invisible labor that we all do in order to publish and to make things available. So there's, I think, also a connection to the emancipation of that type of labor through open science.
Yeah.
So if we reward that better, we can hopefully also, in the end, rely less on commercial parties.
Yeah.
Very much more complex story than that, but this is the
sort of gist of it for
the
you.
gist of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. If I could, because we're going to go to a lunch break, if I could all ask you a near impossible question, but I'd still love to hear the answer. It doesn't have to be perfect, just the first thing that comes to mind. Could you phrase your hope that you would have in a sentence? Just the first thing after this discussion, what you would have for this process. Yeah. I'm just going to wait for the first person who feels comfortable to share. Go on.
I think if the hope I have for the future is for academia to become as popular as the Big Four, so that every student that graduates is like, you know what, I'm going to stay and make the change here, instead of, let me call this process at Deloitte or Ernst & Young, whatever, to make big money.
Yeah.
That's my hope, that talent stays in-house and that we create the change of society.
To make that happen.
Because we have this and this.
Ah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love this. Let's do it. Okay.
Yeah,
Sarah?
let's stop here.
They're going to hear me at Deloitte.
Which is fine.
And I think we also need to do that. That would be my hope, to address more real-world issues right now and in the future.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And I hope we will, that's what I already shared, but I hope it will become real, that we really will take into all these concerns and keep listening with the people working on recognition and rewards, keep listening to all these concerns and try to relate it and try to do something with it. And that's difficult, but I really strive for that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Tanya, what's your hope?
Yeah, my hope is that, that we become more relevant for society, our work, and for practice, and we come up with more breakthrough ideas, because we will be free from this cage of a number of publications.
Yes, free from the cage. Thank you so much. Tanya, Kim, Sarah, Malika. A big round of applause. Thank you. Time for lunch. You can grab some nourishments in the Koninginne's Kamer, where you also had tea and cookies, and I look forward to welcoming you back in half an hour for the award ceremony of the Distinguished Women Scientists Fund's laureates. Have a good time. Eet smakelijk, as we say in Dutch, and see you in half an hour. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nourishing break, and also a big welcome to everyone who's just joined us right now. Isn't that banana bread good? Or is it banana bread? I don't know. It's really, really good. We're going to celebrate some amazing people. I hope you're ready for that. In 2012, which is 10 years ago, can you believe it? The Dutch network of women professors created the Distinguished Women Scientists Fund, the Distinguished Women Scientists Fund, a travel grant for female postdocs who wish to travel for their research. The network is pleased to present the 2021-2022 Fund laureates, and today we get to learn a bit more about their research and also the impact of obtaining this fund. So I'm going to invite them here one by one in alphabetical order, so please give it up for the first one. Here she comes. Postdoctoral researcher at Leiden University, Institute of Cultural Anthropology and Development Sociology within the ERC project Globalizing Palliative Care. Give it up for Natasha Lemos-Dekker. Welcome. Do you have my PowerPoint? Maybe the other way. Yes, well done. Just click here.
You just click next, yeah. Should we try? Then I can go back.
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
So thank you very much, and thank you very much for granting me this award. I feel tremendously honored and excited to be here today in person again. Like Kim said, it's a complete new experience again. A little bit, very briefly, about my research. I do research on palliative and end-of-life care in Brazil, mainly in São Paulo and in Rio Grande. São Paulo is in the middle and Rio Grande is nearby with the border with Uruguay at the end. And the methods I use are mainly ethnographic, which means I participate in a community healthcare center where they are also building a hospice, one of the first of the south of the country. But I also do mainly interviews and informal conversations with people who are at the end of life, but also older people. So what is it that I look at? So I look at, first, palliative care as a traveling model, so as a Western set of values and ideologies, and what happens when this travels to a different context? How is end-of-life care and palliative care then being done perhaps differently? And what happens in the local context of Brazil? But also one of the main important questions, who then has access to this kind of end-of-life care? So this is more of in an institutional level. More on a personal level, I also interview and try to follow in depth older people who are approaching the end of life. And I ask them, how do they manage their everyday care needs? But also, how do they navigate informal and formal care structures, which are very different in the context of Brazil? But also, when talking about the end of life, I also think it's very important to talk about the future. So what do they think is a meaningful life in old age? And with the grant, I will be able to travel to the Department of Anthropology at UCLA, which is one of the leading institutes in the field of medical psychological anthropology, where my research is based in. And I hope to be able to analyze the first set of data that I just gathered. I just returned 2 weeks ago from Brazil, so I very much look forward to look into that and hopefully write one of the first articles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Well done. Well done. Now, please welcome back to hand over the official certificate and, of course, flowers, our very own network chair, Hanneke Takkenberg. You get an official certificate. Congratulations. Applause, yes, please. Nice. And some flowers. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best of luck. And there's pictures taken. Shall I go out of the picture? No, I'm good? Okay, good. Thank you so much. Well done. Congratulations. Yeah, more applause. I like it. The more the better. Yes. Good. Next one. Kelly de Licht, postdoctoral researcher at the Antonie van Leeuwenhoek with the travel grant. She will visit the University Hospital in Innsbruck, Austria. There she is. Yeah.
So, thank you for the invitation to tell something today about my project, and also thank you so much for the travel grant, which I believe will help me to lift my project to the next level. And today I will shortly introduce you into the topic of prompts in clinical practice. It's working. So first, to start off, what are prompts? PROMS is the acronym for Patient-Reported Outcome Measures, which are validated questionnaires about health-related quality of life that are completed by patients themselves. And these questionnaires cover aspects about well-being, functioning, and symptoms, and are, for instance, applied in oncology patients, since cancer and the treatment of cancer has a distinct effect on the patient's health-related quality of life. PROMS can be applied directly into clinical practice, and the data following from practice use can be used for research. So why do we use PROMS in clinical practice? PROMS have the potential to transform healthcare by better integrating the topic of quality of life into clinical encounters. And that is that patients complete the questionnaires before clinical encounters, and physicians see the scores of these patients in the electronic health record, and therefore This results in a more prepared and structured conversation about health-related quality of life, pinpointing those aspects of functioning and symptoms that require supportive care. And therefore, the use of prompts can result in more patient-centered care, better quality of care, and better quality of life by timely intervention on decreased quality of life. The goal of my visit will be that currently at the Antonie van Leeuwenhoek Hospital where I work, we have been implementing prompts in clinical practice and setting up the data for research. However, the Medical University Hospital in Innsbruck is a frontrunner on this, so I would like to bring together their data and our data to build a prediction model so that we can actually predict which patients may be confronted with lower health-related quality of life in practice. And also, I would just love to see with my own eyes how they have been implementing this over there. Thank you for your attention.
Congratulations. And of course, there's a certificate for you. Don't go. You need this special moment. Take it. Go stand in the middle. There you go. It's your official moment. And of course, flowers. Well done. All the best of luck. Yes, picture taken. Good stuff. Titia Meijer is an IELTS and postdoctoral researcher at Erasmus Medical Center Rotterdam. COVID stood in the way of her plans a little bit, but she will tell us all about her new plans. There she is.
Thank you. So indeed, my travel plans, I couldn't follow through this year, so next year I will go to the annual meeting of the American Association of Cancer Research to present my data. And the good news is that next year I will have even more data. So my research actually focuses on the field of DNA repair in breast cancer. And we have developed a functional test, which is called the Repair Capacity Test for breast cancer patients. And what we do with this test is that we can select breast cancer patients for a specific type of therapy. For this research, we actually require a biopsy from a tumor lesion. So we either receive a biopsy from the primary tumor or from a metastatic lesion. And we can actually keep this tumor tissue alive outside the body of the patient for a couple of hours, up to 1 week. And for this test, we can actually measure the DNA repair capacity of this tumor tissue within a couple of hours. And for that, we have to irradiate the tissue to induce DNA damage and then see how the tumor cells cope with this. Can they still repair it, or are they dysfunctional and can they not repair it? So here in the bottom, you can see the readout of this test. This is one example of a tumor, and this is another example of another tumor. So the tumor above is from a patient with a BRCA mutation, and the tumor in the lower panel is from a control patient. So the green that you see actually depicts the tumor cell, and the red color indicates that there's DNA damage actively being repaired. And what we see in patients with BRCA mutations is that their tumors cannot repair this DNA damage anymore. But this makes them actually sensitive to a specific type of targeted therapy. And we can test this by looking at the DNA and test mutations in the gene BRCA. But what we do with our repair capacity test is that we actually look at the behavior of the tumor cells. So there are tumors that do not necessarily have these mutations, but they behave in the same way, which means that they are also sensitive to this therapy. Meaning that with the test that we have developed, we can actually enlarge the population of breast cancer patients who can benefit from this treatment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Come and collect your certificate, and there's a lot more happening in your life. We can also tell. Pictures, applause, proud moment. Well done. Enjoy. Thank you so much. Time for the next one. René Verdiese is a postdoctoral researcher at the Netherlands Cancer Institute. With the travel grant, she will visit Imperial College London. Some attention for René, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, so I will be visiting Imperial College London later this year, in October probably. And my project that I will conduct there will focus on unraveling the biological mechanisms that underlie the development of breast cancer subtypes. And why do I focus on breast cancer subtypes? Well, breast cancer is a heterogeneous disease, and you can already see that here on the pictures of different tissues from different tumors. And based on the expression of the estrogen, the progesterone, and the HER2 receptor, and on tumor grade, we can classify breast cancer subtypes into 4 to 5 molecular subtypes. And I have quite a full picture here, but what I want you to remember from this one is, as you can see at the top row, oh, the laser is not working, okay. That luminal A is the most frequent breast cancer subtype, and you can also see that luminal A compared to the other subtypes has a better short time survival, that's the prognosis bar, and different breast cancer subtypes require different treatments. So what we don't know yet is whether risk factors for breast cancer overall also influence all these molecular breast cancer subtypes. And this is one of the things I'm currently researching at the NKI. And I have a preliminary result here for you. I studied among many risk factors if age at menopause is associated with all molecular breast cancer subtypes. And the upper bar here is for those who are not familiar with the forest plot, the effect estimate from age at menopause on the risk of breast cancer overall. And you can see, because it's outside of the gray dotted line, that there is an association between a later age at menopause and breast cancer. What you also can see in this picture is that it's not the case for the luminal B subtype and the triple negative subtype. And based on these results, we estimated that the heterogeneity of this effect of age at menopause across the breast cancer subtypes is more or less 42%. So that's super interesting in itself. But to improve treatment and prevention of breast cancer further, it's actually important to look at the biological mechanisms that are between, in this example, age at menopause and the different breast cancer subtypes. And for this research question, you ideally need lots of biological data. So I included a few on this slide. For example, genetic data or data on proteins. And if you look at all those molecules in the body, then you are talking about, for example, the genome for genetics, which only refers to that you look at all the genetic variants in the body. And if you're going to integrate these different layers of biological data, you need special analyses. And that's what I'm visiting Imperial College for, under supervision of Marc Chateau, you see on the left. He will supervise me on acquiring these analytical data skills. And from Utrecht University, Roel Vermeulen will be involved, and from the NKI, my PI, Marianne Smit.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on becoming part of the Distinguished Women Scientists group. There will be a certificate for you as well, of course. Thank you. Amazing. Amazing work. Well done. And all the best of luck. The last one is Jiwanti Gangani Sirisena. She's a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Twente, Faculty of Engineering Technology, Department of Water Engineering and Management. With the travel grant, she will attend a workshop at the University of Moratuwa in Sri Lanka.
Good afternoon. As you all know, global climate is changing. According to IPCC's AR6 report, mentioned that 40% of world population is under high risk of climate-related disasters. According to the future projections, temperatures is increasing and it will go to the warming limit by mid of 21st century. leading to unavoidable natural disasters like floods, heat waves, droughts, storm surge, cyclone. Many nations are at highly risk of these natural disasters. That is one part of this story. Other part, human activities because of population growth and also the associated urbanization leads to increase the use of natural resources and services. Together with this climate change and the human activities, many nations are at highly vulnerable state to climate-related risk. Many nations, each and every year, they spend a lot of billions of dollars to recover from aftermath of natural disasters or prevent, mitigation or reduction from these disasters. Disaster risk reduction is one of the general approach we go with to assess, identify, and reduce this natural disasters risk or other climatic disasters. As a scientist, I know what is the future projection, what are the human activities, what the basic projections. However, it is necessary to convey these research findings to another level, another stakeholders like farmers, NGOs, government organizations, and also planners and managers. I got this to go for this disaster risk reduction related workshop in Sri Lanka, organized by UNESCO, Madhajit Center for South Asia Water Management at University of Moratuwa. They are organizing this event related to climate risk and climate adaptation, which are leading to the sustainable approach, much more practices and frameworks. So besides gaining the knowledge from this workshop, this is the layer to go for much more foundation to collaborative work with other organizations. So thank you very much for this opportunity given me to excel my knowledge as well as collaborate with other organizations. Thank you.
Well done. Congratulations. And also for you, an official certificate to hang, I think, above your bed would be a good place for something so special. Well done. All the best of luck. Yes. Let's do it at the end. Yeah, let's do it at the end because there's workshops waiting for us. Huge congratulations, of course, to all laureates. All the best of luck with your important and impactful work. Safe travels to all of you. Do send us a postcard from all these amazing places you're going to. We look forward to hearing of your progress in the future. Well done. Good, time for acquiring new skill sets, development angles for all of us, time for the workshops. Round 1 starts right now, and then after a break in the lunchroom where you were before, round 2 will then continue. You've indicated what the sessions are of your choice. If you don't fully remember, you can visit the registration desk, they will know. I'm afraid it's not possible to switch anymore because the workshops are based on the participants that were heading there. So please go to the one that you were going to. These are the rooms that they take place in. There's people of Bouthout and ook of the network here to help you navigate this building. So it's either to the left and up or to the right and up. Have a great time. And I look forward to seeing you again at 3 when the break starts. Enjoy.